Back to, Dragon Age Origins. Last we left off, we are at camp. Talking to people.
What do you need?
Do you want to talk about Duncan?
You don't have to do that. I know you didn't know him as long as I did.
Doesn't mean I don't mourn his loss.
I should have handled it better. Duncan warned me right from the beginning that this could happen. Any of us
dying?
could die in battle. I shouldn't have lost it, not when so much is riding on us, not with the Blight and everything. I'm sorry.
There are two ways to go with Alistair that I can't quite remember how you do them. You can harden his personality, or I don't know. But my goal is to harden his personality. In fact, hang on just 1 second. Okay, my mistake. Nothing I do here will affect whether or not he becomes hardened later. It's all in a quest that will come up. Like his approval rating high enough. Yeah. Did learn something interesting though, but I'll go into that later.
I'd like to have a proper funeral for him. Maybe once this is all done, if we're still alive. I don't think he had any family to speak of.
That is an excellent idea.
I think he came from High Ever, or so he said. Maybe I'll go up there sometime. See about putting up something in his honor. I don't know. The Dalish don't practice cremation, do they? How do your people honor your dead?
We bury them and plant a tree over their remains.
That sounds quite beautiful. Life springing from death. Thank you. Really, I mean it. It was good to talk about it, at least a little.
He was a friend of mine, too.
That's good to hear. It's nice to know I'm not the
I mean, he
only
did
one.
save my life.
What do you need? Ask away.
What can a Templar do exactly?
Essentially, they're trained to fight. The Chantry would tell you that the Templars exist simply to defend. But don't let them fool you. They're an army. The other main purpose for a Templar is, of course, to hunt mages. To that end, we train in talents that drain mana and disrupt spells.
Seems like Templars could run the Chantry.
You'd think that, but it's not so. The Chantry keeps a close rein on its Templars. We are given lyrium to help develop our magical talents, you see. Which means we become addicted. And since the Chantry controls the lyrium trade with the dwarves, well, I'm sure you can put two and two together.
So you were addicted to this lyrium?
Thankfully, no. You only start receiving lyrium once you've taken your vows. You don't need lyrium in order to learn the Templar talents. Lyrium just makes Templars' talents more effective. Or so I was told. Maybe it doesn't even do that. The Chantry usually doesn't let their Templars get away either, so they can spread their secrets. I'm a bit of an exception. Lucky me. What do you need?
Ask you something.
Ask away.
Tell me about the Grey Ward.
Such as they are.
Is there a headquarters somewhere?
Here in Ferelden, there's our compound in Denerim at the palace, but that's it. Loghain will have control over that and be watching it, no doubt. Beyond that, the only place I know of is Weishaupt Fortress. That's the headquarters of all Grey Wardens in the Anderfelds, 1,000 miles from here. But I've no idea how to even contact them. So unless we try to get back to the compound in Denerim, I suppose the answer is no. there's nowhere for us to go.
Well, that blows. Where are the nearest Grey Wardens
That's a
from
good
here?
question. There's plenty in Orlais, but who knows where they might be found. And the nearest Orlesian city is weeks away. If we go north and cross the sea, there's bound to be some in the Free Marches. Again, however, I just don't know where. I don't know anything about Grey Wardens in other lands.
So what happens now that it's just two of us?
I imagine that eventually the Grey Wardens outside of Ferelden will wonder what's happened. Why there's no contact from Duncan or someone. They'll send someone eventually. Though who knows what Logain's people in Denerim will tell them. Maybe they won't send anyone. We could try to contact them. But that would mean leaving Ferelden, and even if we did, they couldn't come back with us in time to stop the Blight. So that means whatever happens, it's up to us.
To me.
I mean, eventually we would have to use the joining to make more Grey Wardens, right? But I don't know how to do the joining, or what's involved. I know it involves lyrium and some other magic, and that it's really difficult to prepare, but that's it. Unless we can find out more about the joining, I guess we better get used to the idea that there might only be two of us for now. Until more come from elsewhere.
I have no more questions.
About the Grey Wardens, anyhow. Fair enough. What do you need?
Ask you
Ask
something.
away.
How'd you become a Grey Warden?
Same way you did. You drink some blood, you choke on it, and pass out. You haven't forgotten already, have you?
I meant before that.
Let's see. I was in the Chantry before. I trained for many years to become a Templar, in fact. That's where I learned most of my skills.
You don't seem the religious sort.
You're telling me I was banished to the kitchens to scour the pots more times than I can count. And that's a lot. I can count pretty high.
I better hope
Grand
so.
Cleric didn't want to let me go. Duncan was forced to conscript me, actually, and was she ever furious when he did. I thought she was going to have us both arrested. I was lucky.
Why'd the Grand Cleric want to keep you so bad?
I wondered that myself. It's not as if she valued me highly. I think she just didn't want to give anything to the Grey Wardens, is all. The Chantry didn't lose much. And I think I can do more fighting the Blight anyhow, rather than sitting in a temple somewhere. I'll always be thankful to Duncan for recruiting me. If it hadn't been for him, you know, I wouldn't have.
He was a good man.
He was. A good man who didn't deserve his fate. That much I'm sure of.
Oh, dear,
Come
dear.
on, let's go. I think I'm done talking.
I'm sorry I keep doing this. I
What do
probably
you
should
need?
actually, skip
Ask
this
away.
part. But then again, you might miss crucial plot points.
Oh, did I say that? I meant that dogs raised me. Giant slobbering dogs from the Anderfells. A whole pack of them, in fact.
I thought you were raised by the Chantry.
Oh, there you go, listening to me again. You'd think you'd have gotten past that already. I ended up in the Chantry, sure, but I didn't start there. Let's see, how do I explain this? I'm a bastard. And before you make any smart comments, I mean the fatherless kind. My mother was a serving girl in Redcliffe Castle who died when I was very young. Arleman wasn't my father, but he took me in anyhow and put a roof over my head. He was good to me, and he didn't have to be. I respect the man, and I don't blame him anymore for sending me off to the Chantry once I was old enough.
Why did he send you off to the Chantry?
Arleman eventually married a young woman from Orlais, which caused all sorts of problems between him and the king because it was so soon after the war. But he loved her. Anyhow, the new Arlessa resented the rumors which pegged me as his bastard. They weren't true, but of course they existed. The Arl didn't care, but she did. So off I was
Orlesians.
packed to the nearest monastery at age 10. Just as well. The Arlessa made sure the castle wasn't a home to me by that point. She despised me.
An awful thing to do to a child.
Maybe. She felt threatened by my presence, I can see that now. I can't say I blame her. She wondered if the rumors were true herself, I bet. I remember I had an amulet with Andraste's holy symbol on it. The only thing I had of my mother's.
Ah, feck!
I was so furious at being sent away, I tore it off and threw it at the wall and it shattered. Stupid, stupid thing to do. The Arl came by the monastery a few times to see how I was, but I was stubborn. I hated it there.
I was supposed to give that
Blamed
Andraste
him
symbol
for
to him.
everything.
Feck,
And eventually, he just stopped coming.
We're young.
And raised by dogs. Or I may as well have been, the way I acted. But maybe all young bastards act like that. I don't know. All I know is that the Arl is a good man, and well loved by the people. He also was King Kaelin's uncle, so he has a personal motivation to see Loghain pay for what he did. Anyway, that's really all there is to the story.
Oh, feck. I did give it to her already, didn't I? Pretty sure I did.
I must say that traveling with you has opened my eyes to how wrong some are about the Dalish.
Hey?
You are not at all savage, and I've not seen you snatch away women and children without provocation.
My people are often misunderstood. We're used to it.
If my people were more open to interacting with yours, we could do away with such misperceptions.
We're not that interested in There are closed-minded individuals on both sides,
I
trust
hear
me.
many city folk talk about how wonderful it must be to live simpler lives, close to the earth. They could learn from the Dalish.
We do live quite close to the
How
earth.
marvelous that must be. I have met very few elves, and those that I have met were pledged to the service of Orlesian nobles.
You mean slaves. I could never live like that.
Elven servants are well compensated for their services. Some of them live richer lives than humans. A well-trained elven servant is highly valued in Orlais. They are nimble and dexterous, and many people find them pleasing to look at.
Like a prize-winning animal?
No, I did not mean it that way. Oh, my words were clumsily chosen. I did not mean to offend. I am sorry.
I'll just accept it.
Thank you. You have given me a lot to think about.
You accepted.
Have I ever told you I really like the way you wear your hair?
Really? It's so stubborn sometimes.
It's very nice, and it suits you. Simple. Not like the elaborate hairstyles we wore in Orlais. They involved flowers, ribbons, jewels. One
French
year,
stuff.
feathers were all the rage, and Lady Elise decided she needed to outdo everyone else, and actually wore
Oh,
live
no.
songbirds in her voluminous hair. The chirping was quite charming for a while, but you must realize, terrified little birdies often have loose bowels.
Ugh.
Yes, you can imagine what she looked like by the end of the evening. But I was trying to say something nice to you, wasn't I? Oh, forgive me. My mind wanders so. It's just that I feel so comfortable talking to you.
Oh,
that
I
could
judge
say
you a lot,
anything
trust
and
me.
you wouldn't judge me.
And I actually do like the way you ramble.
You see? This is what I mean. You're such a pleasure to talk to. I haven't felt this close to anyone in a long time. I really enjoy your company.
And do you often enjoy the company of other women?
And what would you do if I said I do? Very much so, in fact.
I think I might giggle and look coy.
Huh? You must do that then. Perhaps later when I'm not prepared for it. Surprise me. Come then, let's get going. If I recall correctly, you have some important earth-shattering business to attend to.
Do, don't I? Yeah, camp will do. God, I cannot believe that. Stupid, 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 stupid. Just wondering, I'm still beating myself up over the decision to give her the Andraste amulet.
The stars are out.
There's still beauty to be found in this
It
world.
comforts me to know that the stars will remain untouched by the blight. That whatever happens down here, they will shine eternally. Their light undimmed. There is a story about that cluster of stars over there. Do you know it? Elindra and her soldier?
Can't say I've heard of it. Now tell me the story.
A long time ago, there lived a fair maiden called Elindra. She had many suitors, but spurned them all, for she did not love them. One day,
They get all
Elindra was
sucky, you
sitting
know.
by her window in her father's castle, singing and dreaming, when her lovely voice caught the attention of a young soldier. Entranced by her song, the soldier drew near to Elindra's
Piss off
window.
with you!
As their eyes met, he fell in love with her, and she with him. When Elindra told her father about the man she had chosen, he was
shouldn't do that.
furious, for Elindra was high-born, but her love nothing more than a common soldier. To keep them apart, he had Elindra imprisoned in the highest tower of his castle, and sent her soldier to the wars. Alas, not a month had passed before news of the soldier's death reached Elindra. Alone in her tower, Elindra wept for her love, and beseeched the gods to deliver her from this cruel world.
There's a window,
So
surely.
earnest was her plea that the gods themselves were moved. They gathered Elindra into their arms and lifted her high into the heavens, where she became a star. The gods also raised up the soul of Elindra's soldier love, and there he dwells, across the horizon from her. The band of stars between them is a river of Elindra's tears, cried for her lost love.
And they couldn't put the
say
two
that
together?
when Elindra has cried enough,
Gods are
she will be
douches.
able to cross the river to be reunited with her soldier.
I'll never look at the stars the same way again.
This story is one of my favorites. A tale of a love so great and so enduring that it defies death and moves the gods to action. Sometimes I ask myself, does such a love exist? Can it exist?
We lose hope and love, then we are truly lost.
I never expected you to say that. It is a pleasant surprise.
You just don't tell. I am sincerely a terrible romantic.
I have to say there is a certain severity to you. Finding a person behind that all is nice. Maybe you should let your softer side show more often. Sometimes following your heart, not your head, leads you to remarkable places.
Yes.
Looking for little old me?
I'd like to talk to you about something.
Yes? What's on your mind?
Why did you decide to come to Pharrell?
My mother was from Denerim, and I consider myself a Ferelden.
Oh, sure you
Mother
do.
served an Orlesian noblewoman who lived here when Orlais ruled. When Orlais was defeated and the common folk began to resent the presence of any Orlesian, the lady returned to Orlais. She took my mother with her. I was born in Orlais and did not set foot in Ferelden till much later. Mother was always telling me stories of her homeland. I think she missed it.
What happened to your mother?
Mother died when I was very young. Lady Cecily let me stay with her. I had no one else. She was quite old then, and she had me study music and dance to entertain her. It is unfair that I have more memories of Cecily than my mother.
Do you remember nothing of your mother?
Strangely, the only thing I really remember of Mother was her scent. She kept dried
Hey, this is
flowers in her
something-
closet
now
amongst
I
her
remember.
clothes. Small white
need-
Ferelden wildflowers with a sweet fragrance. Mother called them
You
a
need
Drax's grace.
to
They
talk
were
to them
very rare in
to learn
Orlais.
more about them before you
But
give them
enough
gifts.
about that. Let us move on. Looking for little old me?
I was.
Yes? What's on your mind? I
Vision
knew
of
this
yours.
would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain, but I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It
Yeah.
was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell. And the darkness drew me in.
You dreamt of the Blight.
I suppose I did. That was what the darkness was, no? When I woke, I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rosebush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was.
You would be surprised. I've seen a lot of ugly
Beautiful
things.
rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness,
I seen
there
a
is
bear
hope
covered with
and beauty.
spines.
Have faith.
Tried to eat my face. And this made you want to help me.
In my dream, I fell. Or maybe I jumped. I'd do anything to stop the Blight. I know that we can do it. There are so many good things in the Maker's world. How can I sit by while the Blight devours everything?
I suppose I couldn't sit by either.
That is why you're a Grey Warden. Come, there's a Blight to stop.
Indeed there is.
Looking for little old me?
Yeah, I'm going to keep talking.
Yes? What's on your mind?
You miss anything about Orlais?
I miss Val Royeaux. Unlike other cities where the people are the lifeblood and the character, Val Royeaux was her own person, and her people little more than decorations. There was always music in Val Royeaux, streaming from the many windows, quiet refrains and triumphant choruses, and always, floating above that all, the chant, coming from the Grand Cathedral. It was magnificent.
Never been to Orlais.
If you get the chance, you should see it, at least Val Royeaux. Of course there are good things and bad things about Orlais, like anywhere else. Sometimes I miss it dearly, and sometimes I'm glad I'm rid of it. And you will laugh at this, but I miss the fine things I had in Orlais.
What sort of things?
Dresses, fine dresses and furs, and shoes, of course. One can't mingle with nobility with bad shoes, you see. Orlais is very fashionable, almost ridiculously so. But the shoes! Living with those ridiculous trends was worth it for the shoes.
Were they ridiculous shoes?
Sometimes. About 10 years ago, all the ladies went mad for shoes with soles as large and heavy as bricks. But it isn't always that silly. When I left Orlais, the fashion was shoes with
built up the leg
delicate
muscles, I'm
tapered
sure.
heels and embellishments in the front. A ribbon, perhaps, or embroidery. In soft colors, of course. It was spring.
Oh, that does sound lovely.
I had my eye on a pair my shoemaker was
saying that.
working on. It was covered in pale
Trying to get
blue
into her
silk
knickers, you
with
see.
amber beads on the toe. The shoes made in Orlais were exquisite. Not at all like these clunky fur-lined leather boots you have in Ferelden. Ugh, just look at them.
It's so ugly and shapeless.
They're sturdy shoes, but sometimes a girl just wants to have pretty feet. Oh, I could talk about shoes all day, but we have things to do, don't we?
We do. Remember vaguely there being, like, I don't know, maybe something back here? Or maybe I'm misremembering. Or maybe it's something that happens later, for all I remember. I'll talk to the dude with the exclamation point above his head later.
What do you wish of me? If you must.
I do. How did you become a shape changer?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds.
Yet you have
The Chasing
slightly
have tales of we
luminescent, glowing
witches,
eyes.
saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike, dragging the young boy kicking and screaming to our lair to be devoured. A most amusing legend.
Your mother been doing this for a long time?
Changing her form, certainly. Devouring lost children, I cannot say. She has not done it in my experience, though in truth my lifespan is but a fraction of her own. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
Anyone become a shape changer?
Anyone with sufficient will. But the act of transformation is a magical one. 'Tis a spell and thus requires a mage's talents.
So no, I can't.
If you had a notion to learn such a skill for yourself, sadly, you must remain disappointed. Oh? Then I have no doubt your people do much to keep their talents well hidden from humans. I wonder if I was to ask one of your keepers of the origin of their magics, if there would be any relation to what I was taught.
That would be intriguing, wouldn't it?
I may even ask my mother about it someday, though I doubt she would tell the truth of it even so. Such is her way.
Other
The
humans?
form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I
Oh,
learn
sure you
nothing.
are.
So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
Spent a lot of time as an animal.
There were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
And what do other animals think when you change?
They do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say. Just as I am still human, no matter my form, they are still animals. Thus they cannot speak, even were I to ask.
That's all I wanted to know.
Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
I think your abilities would be quite useful.
A most practical opinion. Far more so than any man I have spoken to. But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us.
Keep going.
What do you wish of me? If you must.
Is Flemeth really what she seems to be?
Well, that depends, does it not? What does she seem to be?
Nutty old bat.
Sometimes I do wonder the very same thing. Tell me, how much do you know of the tale? The one that the chastened still tell of my mother, to frighten them into obedience.
I've heard little of it.
No doubt such a tale has mutated much over time and telling. I can relay what Flemeth once told me herself, and you can decide whether or not 'tis the truth, if you desire.
Please do.
As the tale is sung by the bards, there was a time when Flemeth was young and beautiful, a fair lass in a land of barbarian men, the desire of any who saw her.
So long ago is this?
Many centuries before this land was even named Ferelden. The tales say that Flemeth fell in love with Osen the Bard,
try and think of
and
a way to
fled the
pronounce
castle of her
Ferelden
husband, the
backwards.
Dreadlord Conobar, and that
But I
he
could-
swore vengeance for her infidelity. In truth, my mother claims that 'twas Osen who was her husband, and Conobar the jealous lord who looked on from afar. Lord Conobar approached young Osen and offered him wealth and power in exchange for his lovely wife, and Osen agreed.
Someone must have been angry.
The life of a bard is a poor one, and love fades in the wake of hunger. 'Twas Flemeth who suggested the arrangement. All would have been well had Lord Conobar kept his end of the bargain. But he was a foul man who bargained with coin he did not possess. Osen
dear.
was led off to a field and slain, left for dead. Flemeth spoke to the spirits and learned of the deed, and swore revenge.
So she truly loved Olsen then.
That was not the point. Conobar had no honor, so she would not have him. Flemeth begged the spirits to aid her, and 'twas they who slew Conobar. The demon the legend tells of came later.
So there
Lord
was
Conobar's allies chased Flemeth, you see. Chased her to the wilds, and there she hid. There she found the demon, and he made her strong. The legends all speak of the great hero Cormac, he who defeated Flemeth and her great army when she invaded the lowlands centuries later.
She does seem like the
All
army having
lies.
type. Which, she never invaded, or he never defeated her?
The truth of the matter is that there was never an invasion. As Flemeth tells it, the Chastened never raised an army under her banner, and she never fought with any warrior named Cormac. Cormac led a brutal civil war against his own people, and later claimed it was to vanquish evil that had taken root amongst the lords. Thus, he was hailed a hero. Flemeth was only attached to the legend much later. Perhaps 'twas due to the great war with the Chastened that eventually came, but Mother claims not to know how it began.
The legend tells of Flemeth having many daughters.
You ask if I have sisters. I have asked of this myself. The stories tell of many witches of the wilds after all, not just the one, and these tales existed long before I did. Flemeth refuses to speak of other daughters, if they existed, so should I believe I am her first? I doubt that too.
How is it that Flemeth has survived for so long?
The demon within her has transformed her into something else. An abomination, perhaps some would say. I know not. I only know my mother is clever, and she is part of the wilds as it is part of her. But she is no immortal. She bleeds. A blade in her heart would kill her like any other, were it lucky enough to find her.
Do you believe her version?
I do not believe everything that Flemeth claims. Oft it seems her bitterness has colored her memories. But on the whole, yes, I believe this tale, if not all.
Interesting source, thank you.
Flemeth tells it with far more embellishment than I, but you are welcome. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless.
She died a long
Oh,
time ago.
then you have my sympathies for what it is worth.
Very little.
Which is very little, I am certain. It matters not. Let us move on. What do you wish of me? If you must.
Anything else? You ever been hunted by the Chantry?
My mother has been hunted from time to time, yes. By Templar fools like Alistair, which should tell you how successful they generally were. Flemeth made a bit of a game of it, in fact. The Templars would come again, and she would look at me and smile and say that the fun was to begin once more.
You really had no trouble with them.
I am unsure. I was too young to understand, and perhaps 'twas bravado on Flemeth's part, or perhaps she was merely amused. I will never know. Flemeth would warn them, once. 'Twas a warning they inevitably failed to heed. And then the true game began. Often Flemeth would use me as bait. A little girl to scream and run and lure the Templars deeper into the wilds and to their doom.
Surely more would have followed.
Sometimes. Eventually. Thankfully, the wilds is a vast place. Once they found us, Flemeth would simply move us elsewhere and we would be lost within the forest once again. I did not understand the danger we faced until I was much older. I had never heard of apostates or maleficarum.
What exactly is an apostate?
You do not know? The Zealots use that word for any magic they do not control. The Chantry sees any
do realize
mages
I'm not from around
leashed
here,
to
right?
the Circle of Magi as apostates. And apostates could become maleficarum, evil mages that resort to blood magic and become demon-enslaved abominations. It may even be true. Still, those of us who prefer freedom see no reason to submit.
I agree completely.
Oh? I hope you're not simply being agreeable. It would be a refreshing change. Enough of this talk. Let us return to the task at hand.
Alright, let's try asking something
What do you wish of me? We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
Never mind. Don't ask why you're still here. She gets pissed. Can't imagine why. Can I help you?
You're a hard woman to find.
Am I?
Where are my manners? The name is Levy Dryden. Did Duncan ever mention me? Levy of the Coins? Levy the Trader?
You know Duncan.
Oh, yes, for years. Considered him a friend, I did. But here I am carrying on while you have a blight to stop. Don't want to waste your time. But you see, Duncan promised that together we'd look into something important for the Wardens. And for me. But poor Duncan's... well, no more. A tragedy it is, at that. But I know he would want his work carried on. His pledge fulfilled.
What promise did
My
he make?
family... well, past a bit checkered to see. Nobles look at us with disdain.
Yeah,
My
well,
great
I'm an
great-grandmother,
elf,
Sophia
so
Dryden, was the
how do you
last
feel about
warden
that?
commander of Ferelden back when the wardens were known as freeloaders. So King Arlen banished the wardens, and he took House Dryden's land and titles.
What happened next?
Hard to say. After King Arlen died, there was a civil war, loads worse than this one. And our family was on the run, hunted by enemies, with nary a friend in the world.
As you do.
But Drydens are tough. We rebuilt, became merchants, and we never lost our pride.
So what favor did you ask of
Ask for
Duncan?
the truth. My family reveres Sophia Dryden. We know she died at the old Grey Warden base, Soldier's Peak. We want evidence to clear her name. It won't restore our land or our titles, but it'll restore our honour.
Never heard of Soldier's Peak.
Well, no one's been to Soldier's Peak since Arlen's days. At least none that's come back. I spent years mapping the maze of tunnels to the peak, and I found the way a few years back. So I went to Duncan, I did, and I said that he could reclaim the old base and my family could have its honour.
What do you need from
I
me?
can pick my way through the tunnels at the base of Soldier's Peak, but the place, well, they say it's haunted, and it'll be dangerous for certain.
See.
Will you think on it, at least?
Your family's faith will be
A
rewarded.
1,000 blessings upon you, Warden. I'll mark down the location on your map. When you arrive, we'll pick our way through the tunnels together.
Well, That was a long distraction. In fact, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm over time by now. Let's go do something. Anything. Morrigan, yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Let's see. Pretty sure this leads to a spider-infested forest. But it's been many a year. Hopefully this doesn't lead to the, yeah, it's exactly what I was...
my friend. These
Hold
are
on,
curious
hold on.
companions you have. Might I ask the purpose of your visit? The Grey Ward...
The Grey Wardens? How unusual that one of our own... Now, perhaps we might introduce ourselves.
Yada 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 yada. Yada 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 yada. Well,
Ambushed us. And though we drove the beasts back, much damage was done. The only thing that could help them must come from the source of the curse itself. And that... No.
well, fine.
But if you can indeed help, then I wish you... I must...
Sorry about that. Clearly that was not what I was going for. Didn't I save before I left? Well, feck.
How do they move these things through the forest? Do the trees just get out of their way, or what?
Might do. Where's the exit? Alright, tell you what I'm gonna do. I am gonna go back. And, maybe go to an earlier point. So I can give, the Entraste symbol to the right person. So, you know, I'll be back when I finish all that. I am the Blues 32. This is Dragon Age Origins. DTFN. That's all for now.